This video seeks to be an architectural insight into San Vitale de Ravenna, the most important church in the Byzantine period of the Italian city Ravenna. We will talk about space, form, structure, and design. But of course, this couldn't be achieved properly without a bit of historical context and character introductions. So let's go back to the year 500 AD. The Roman Empire has fallen in the west. Barbarians have sacked the city of Rome, and Europe has fallen into the Dark Ages. Yet, the eastern half of the empire, ruled from Constantinople, morphed into the Byzantium realm. Ravenna was under the control of the Ostrogoth Emperor Theodoric, who was an Arian, something that really bothered the Emperor of Constantinople, Justinian, who sent his general Balsarius to conquer Ravenna and reestablish there the Orthodox Christian belief. San Vitale of Ravenna was started to be built under the Ostrogoths Empire, commissioned by Bishop Ecclesio, financed with the money of the wealthy banker Giuliano Argentario, and supervised by the city bishop Maximiano, who consecrated it in the year 547. All these characters appear proudly in the mosaics that decorate the inside of the church. Meanwhile, the name of the architect or architects responsible for it will remain unknown, which was common in the medieval world. By the year 547, Ravenna was already under the control of the Byzantine Empire, which means that now Emperor Justinian and his wife Theodora will also be represented on the mosaics inside San Vitale of Ravenna as a propaganda strategy. San Vitale Ravenna is a martyrium church, which means it's dedicated to keep a specific religious element, for example, the tomb of a martyr. These early Christian churches are very original and unique, because at this time, builders were still trying to discover a universal language for Christianity. San Vitale has an octagonal-shaped plan. Later, throughout the Middle Ages, the churches are going to be built in a Latin cross form, when certain guidelines and rules had already been adopted. The exterior octagonal shape that surrounds the cult center will inspire the builders to carry out the ambulatory, where the pilgrims walk through the church without disturbing with its circulation. The octagonal shape allows to have a central vaulted space, which its delimitation is achieved thanks to 8 columns. These columns are unique, since they leave the classical period behind and try to find a totally new style. On its capital, there are impost blocks that help the transition towards the arch. It should be noted that they are double columns, one on top of the other, for greater stability. As our eyes rises to see the end of these columns, we notice another floor. Yes, San Vitale has a second floor due to the beliefs of separation between classes and sexes that were held at the time.
The interior space provokes a feeling of smallness and astonishment, not because of its size, but because of its tall double columns that force us to look towards the ceiling, where the domes and apses are located. Observing the dome in detail, we notice its mosaics. In them, we can not only find Christian figures like Jesus and his apostles, but we can also find the new emperors. On one side, Justinian, and in front of him, Theodora, the dancer and actress, who made the Emperor of Constantinople change the laws to make her his wife and equal. These two had one of those romances worthy to know, but, keeping our concentration in architecture, let's continue talking about San Vitale de Ravenna. The materials of mosaics are marble and stone tesserae combined with gold tesserae, a very characteristic feature of the Byzantine. For its elaboration, the glass paste mosaic technique was used. The walls were covered with 3 layers of lime. The first and thickest layer served as a base and to equalize the wall. The second was rough and served for greater adhesion. And the third, where the tiles were placed, was thin, and there the mosaic was drawn. Everything in the interior is highly decorated, as a symbol of the grace of the Christianity and a symbol of the power that Justinian had at that time. The light from the windows bounces off the gold tesserae, creating an almost heavenly scene, intimate and powerful in symbolism and meaning. The materials used for construction in general were local, more specifically stone cut by workers and bricks extracted from Roman construction, separated by very thick mortar joints. The dome and roof was also covered with tile. By having a really big dome, Byzantine architects understood that thick walls were very necessary, but they will not allow the opening of windows and the church will remain in a perpetual gloom. So they created one of the most important elements of the architecture in that era, the buttress, that distributes the construction loads and allows the construction of thinner walls and openings. Although in the floor plan looks totally symmetrical, it actually contains many more elements that add to this central symmetry. For example, the main apse where the Jesus mosaic is found breaks with the harmonic symmetry, and flanking it are two rectangular turrets, followed by two circular chapels, each provided with a rectangular apse, as well as the narthex or transverse nave, where catechumens or not baptized were accessed and housed. From the outside, we can see the complexity of the building. We notice how the elements are set against each other. On one hand, a small octagonal structure protects the dome. On the other, the buttresses that distribute the loads come out of the octagonal prism, as well as two circular chapels. The church is composed of all of these volumes to massify the construction and have greater solidity.
The Church of San Vitale in Ravenna is one of the most important Christian temples of Byzantine period. Its beautiful mosaics that decorate its walls and the architectural innovation that was given through the use of the buttress gave way to its wide use. San Vitale is not only a symbol of power or divinity, but also represents an incalculable historical value.